Hello. Hi, guys. No one's watching yet, so I will hold off. But if you're just watching the playback, my name is Teresa Joy. I'm going live right now on Jordan's channel. I am a journalist, in case you didn't watch my other two lives. I am a journalist who's been working out in the field, tackling environmental corruption, environmental genocide. I work a lot in Buffalo, New York. We have a huge problem there with lead, police brutality, gentrification, and that is the same problem, which I'm sure is happening, and I know is happening all over the country. So I've been reporting on that for quite some time, and I am here today on Jordan's channel because he has a vision to bring reporters to you, aggressive journalists, to uncover corruption. So, hi guys, who's here today? I am getting the hang of this YouTube live thing. Well, I'm not having any pop-ups right now. So anyways, yeah, we're gonna go live here, and then Jordan's coming on at 5. We want to spout some truth. So hi, everybody. We have 6 people present today. Welcome. And where are you guys coming from? How do I see these? Hold on, I'm sorry. I'm going to press a button. I hope it doesn't. Show live chat messages. Whatever. I never said I was a tech genius. So, aha, there you are. You are in France, Adam. Hi, Adam. Let me ask you while we're waiting for the audience to come. What do you think about the United States and what's going on in the United States right now? From France, what is your point of view on what are the majority of French people thinking about America right now? Very curious. Of course, I've already heard, and I can imagine, but I think a lot of Europeans think that it's pretty wacky in the United States. So anyways, let's get into it. This is absolutely infuriating to me when I saw this. There is an amazing candidate. People here think Trump's dumb, as if Macron was better. Hey, nice, right? I know politicians are all crap, but definitely Trump is pretty bad. So there is an incredible, I would say, progressive candidate running in Michigan for governor. I absolutely love him. I've been watching him and hoping for the best for him, Abdul El-Sayed. And then I saw an article the other day, and I saw a video of a man who is running against him, completely spreading Muslim fear propaganda against him. Super conspiracy theory that he's jihad and his parents were involved in ISIS and just absolute madness. So I want to address that. You'd think that we would get used to that kind of stuff by now, but I'm not. And every time I see it, it just infuriates me because this man is exactly who we need to be in a position of power in our country. And it's just sad that Americans buy into this shit, these lies, the fear mongering. So his running opponent is Patrick Colbeck, who is the current state senator in Michigan, the 7th district. So this is an article from BuzzFeed, MSN, and you can watch the video on YouTube and also on this website, this anti-Muslim website that he was actually doing the speech for at the time. The anti-Muslim group is called United West. So they have a huge section on El-Sayed and Colbeck on their website, and all the anti-Muslim propaganda and videos, and it's lies, and it's America, and it has to stop. Okay, so this is the article, and forgive me, I don't have glasses. I lost them, and I'm getting them back next week. I had to wait for my insurance to cover them, but so if I'm like squinting, sorry about it. A Republican running for governor in Michigan is using unfounded conspiracy theories against a Muslim American rival. Patrick Colbeck, currently a state senator in Michigan's 7th district, used a typical and unfounded anti-Muslim conspiracy theory during a presentation about his Muslim American Democratic rival, suggesting he is part of an unfounded Muslim plot to engage in civilized jihad that is subversively attempting to take over the country. And if you go to Patrick Colbert's Twitter account right now, I just checked just about an hour ago, and his first 2 tweets are anti-Muslim tweets smearing Abdul El-Sayed, who is running for governor, against him. I just feel like it's so sad, the amount of lies. We have politicians lying to us. We have media lying to us. We have, in another report I'm going to tell you about, we have trusted institutions that are supposed to be protecting Americans lying to us. It's all about money and power, and we are in the grasp of some very slimy, deceiving politicians and corporations that want nothing but money and could care less about the people. So back to it. The candidate Patrick Colbeck, who is currently a state senator of Michigan's 7th district, made the remarks about Abdul El-Sayed while delivering a slideshow at an event held by the United West in April 2018. The group has been classified as an active anti-Muslim group by the Southern Poverty Law Center, which tracks the activity of hate organizations. So this is from his video where he starts talking about how the Muslims are trying to take over the government in Michigan. So this is him talking, and he's talking about Hamtramck, which is a city in Michigan. Now, Hamtramck, 4 out of the 6 city council members are Muslim. So that's what he's referring to here. He says, so Hamtramck is now the first majority Muslim city council. Then he shows a slide of El-Sayed, and it says, position of influence. He goes on to say, but we also have somebody that I will likely be running against in the general election, Dr. Abdul El-Sayed, whose parents apparently have ties to the Muslim Brotherhood back in Egypt. This is scary stuff. Colbeck said they're already advertising him as the first Muslim governor, so this is a big deal. So El-Sayed's parents came from Egypt. They came over here. His dad went to university and became an engineer. His mom also got an education, became a nurse, and his stepmother now was born and raised in Michigan. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure they're plotting. They're plotting and scheming. They're horrid people. So he goes on to say, oh, I'm sorry, I already said that. So Colbeck's presentation was loaded with false conspiracy theories that have been pushed by the far right to undermine Muslim Americans. A recent BuzzFeed News analysis found that the state and local Republican politicians and officials have publicly attacked Islam in 49 states since 2015, typically with impunity. He goes on to say, there's a lot of pressure being applied in our society right now. You're seeing Muslim legislators in state legislature, and you're seeing also a push at a local level at city councils. Civilized. So then he shows a slide that says, where is it? Do I have it? Oh, I do. So he shows a slide at this point which says civilized jihad techniques. It's just garbage. He's garbage. So I'm sorry, like I don't have the fanciness where I can make this pop up on your screen. Probably when it's re-edited and it's posted as its own video, we'll have this pop up. But so here's his slide. It says civilized jihad techniques. keep the infidels ignorant of the true nature and progress of Sharia, some other things. But at the bottom, and he has this underlined, because this is the point he's trying to stress to the people, because they really have to be afraid. They really have to be afraid. Place Muslim brothers in positions from which they can exercise influence. You have to, if you don't know who El Sayed is, wait till you hear. He's incredible. I want him in a position of influence. I want him in a position of influence, and many more of him in positions of influence. So this video they also have up on YouTube, and it's called Sharia Crime Stoppers. Thank you for saving us, douche. Sorry. So it goes on to say, the article, well-funded anti-Muslim groups like the Center for Security Policy and Act for America, once fringe elements of conservative movements that have recently risen to prominence in the Trump era have alleged for years that Muslim Americans are subverting U.S. laws through the practice of Sharia, and that it would replace and supersede the laws of the land. Fear-mongering. I just have a question. Are these people really scared? Are they really scared? Do they really believe that it's going to be this huge jihad revolution, as they say, and they're going to take over the United States? Or are they just filled with hate? And anyone who's not like them, they don't want in their society. And, you know, the story is old as time. Anyone who's not participating in the same religion as them, they don't want in their society. So are they really scared? Are they really scared for their welfare? The people who believe, who say this shit and spread this shit? Or are they just full of just ignorance and hatred towards anyone who's not like them? I think that they're scared, but not for their lives. They are just scared out of ignorance, that they don't want to, they just feel like they can't interact with people who have different views and different religions. I don't know. I'm glad I don't understand them. So there is a page promoting this. They have an entire page promoting this on United West's website. So that's the anti-Muslim group that this candidate, Patrick Colbert, was addressing. They have an entire page on the website, which also has a section called Sharia Crime Stoppers. And they describe the candidate, Stephen Colbert, as having studied and learned the history of Sharia, the Muslim Brotherhood, and their plan to take down America. They say one of his potential opponents is a Sharia-compliant Democrat candidate, Abdul El-Sayed. The website says they also have 5 embedded videos in words that hyperlink another page that says El-Sayed is displaying an ISIS hand gesture. So then they have these 2 pictures of El-Sayed. This one is when he was way younger. This one looks like he was younger as well, because I've seen him recently and he definitely looks a lot different. But regardless, El-Sayed is doing this and smiling, and apparently that is an ISIS hand gesture. I'm sorry for the guerrilla style. Can you see that? Oh dear, signaling ISIS. Hey guys, we're about to take over. You know, you gotta. Okay. Claims that El-Sayed may harbor Islamists' convictions and be a Trojan horse are not unfounded, the website says, especially given the reality of what some have dubbed a stealth jihad. He is a stealth jihad, is what they're calling him. You have to have such a thick skin if you're going to get up and you're going to speak speak out. But this is so sad, and I feel so bad for him and his family. It's very unfair, and it's heartbreaking. But I'm sure they're familiar with ignorance, and they've probably dealt with it before, but it should not exist. It should not exist. I'm sure it always will. But I would love for this man to be elected. So let's talk about Cyanide. If you haven't heard about him yet, he is incredible. And if you're in Michigan and you can vote for governor, please take a look at him. Look at his policies. Go to his website. He is for you. He is for the planet. He is incredible. Oh, I really love when I see great candidates like this running. So Cyanide is 33 years old. He's a physician who once served as the head of the Detroit Health Department as health director. He would be the country's first Muslim governor if elected in November. He's a progressive favorite in the race and has been described as charismatic. So let me read you, what is that? Oh yeah, Sean Hannity endorsed the guy running against him who did these horrible videos, Patrick Colbeck. So that tells you a lot about Patrick Colbeck, eh? So back to Cyanide. He's 33 years old. He was born in Detroit, Michigan. He went to the University of Michigan. He went to Oriel College. He went to Oxford and got his PhD. He went to Columbia and he got his MD. He had the Rhodes Scholarship Award, the Paul and Daisy Soros Fellowship for New Americans Award, which they have nothing to do with George Soros. He served as executive director of the health department for 2 years. He was the youngest health commissioner in a major U.S. city. Previously, he was an assistant professor in the Department of Epidemiology at Columbia University. He is an internationally recognized public health expert. He is an author of over 100 scholarly articles, abstracts, books, and chapters on public health policy, social epidemiology, and health disparities. Well, dear Lord, Michigan needs this man because we all know what's happening in Detroit. How about that? Public health. How about that? Someone who actually cares about the people's health. Imagine he was governor of Michigan. Do you think he would fix the problem in Flint? Because I do. I really do. Do you see my cat? There she goes. So if you just go to his website, I'm going to go over real quick and wrap it up. I could talk about him all day though, because I just feel so much hope when I see these incredible candidates, and I just want everyone to know about him. And just disgusting what this other man is spreading. What do we want America to represent? Trump, fear-mongering, hate, racism, or hope? Wow, how about this one? Simply hope. So the issues that he states, 20 issues that are on the top of his list to fight for. Fight inequality in all forms. Raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Implement state-level single-payer health care. Protect a woman's right to choose and eliminate gender pay gap. Done. We can stop there. Never accept, oh, no we can't. Never accept a dime of corporate money and get the money out of politics. Rebuild our crumbling roads and bridges. Oh my God, I love that. Make college tuition free for families earning under $150,000 and reinvest in public education. I have read this so many times. Yet I feel like I'm reading it for the first time, and it just makes me as happy now as it did the first time I heard about him. Because it's hope that this country will not be ruled by these slimy sleazeballs who continue to poison the people and the water and the air and destroy the environment. Ongoing. End the profit motive in public education. Reform auto insurance to reduce costs while protecting people. Fund and implement universal pre-kindergarten. Amend civil rights legislation to ameliorate protections for LGBTQ and Michiganders. Reform our criminal justice system and tackle mass incarceration and police violence. El Cyanide 2020. You never know. What? Can you imagine? Can you imagine if this man became governor and somewhere down the line, you know, he did a wonderful, wonderful job, helped the people, and became president? I look forward to that day. Aggressive action on climate, environmental justice, and no new fossil fuel infrastructure. I want to interview this guy. Fight for clean water for all and shut down Enbridge Line 5. Tackle the opioid epidemic through comprehensive mental health reform. Stand with labor to end right to work and protect prevailing wage. Provide high-speed broadband internet to every community in Michigan and protect net neutrality. Support child and elderly care for Michiganders. End gerrymandering and legislative term limits, and reinstate FOIA for public officials. Do you guys like him? Have you heard of him? Yes, he sounds like an amazing, amazing candidate. If you know anyone in Michigan or you live in Michigan, please let them know about him. Pass on this video. Send them a link to his website. I mean, he has a track record that he's done amazing things. He has a track record that doesn't show anything corrupt. So he's proven himself to this point. He has. And this is what he stands for. And because he's proven himself and he shows that he's someone who follows through with helping the people, I know he would stick to this. So just one last thing. Yeah, Michigan, wake up. Please vote for this man. Find out who he is. But the thing about it is, he doesn't have a huge budget. I say this all the time. Like the other candidates, there are other people running. There's even another Democrat who's running who's basically, you know, she's more popular than him at this point because people don't really know about him. He's not taking a dime from any corporate donors. So he doesn't have as large of a campaign as the other people do. So it's really up to us to get the word out about him. Just one last thought on this and fear-mongering and hate-mongering and anti-Muslim rhetoric. It really is so dangerous. Yes, it could cost this man the election, but I'm fairly certain that the people that this asshat, Patrick Colbeck, is speaking to anyways are not going to vote for El Cyanide because they're probably already racists. You know. But the stats, I said this the other day, stats on hate crimes in the United States. I'm just going to reiterate. I'm going to say this one again. The Alabama-based Southern Poverty Law, an organization that monitors hate groups, recorded an average of 87 hate incidents a day during the 10-day period after Trump's elections. This is 5 times the daily average of hate crimes recorded by the FBI in 2015. Many of those hate incidents targeted people of color, Muslims, Jews, members of the LGBTQ community, and others. So it's hate propaganda actually leads to crime and death against good people for absolutely no reason. There are so many racists out there. Just case in point, my last live, I had mentioned that I had family who died in the concentration camps, and I don't know how many comments there were, which we blocked and reported about I'm a stupid Jewish whore and to get in the kitchen and put myself back in the oven. And let me tell you, if you left me those comments, it doesn't hurt me at all. I feel very sad for you that you would look at another human being and hate them, that you feel that kind of hatred. I don't know. Hate is very destructive even to oneself. So you're not doing yourself any favors by hating people. It's so much easier to make friends, to learn about different religions and different races and find, you know, the awe and wonder and that, as opposed to tell someone to jump into an oven. And by the way, I'm not Jewish. I'm Roma Gypsy. But that kind of hate shouldn't exist in the world. Anyway, on to the next. Oh, you know, I have to watch the time because Jordan's coming on at 5. I can't see without my glasses. Oh, yes. Okay, so this was, again, this is something, I read this and I feel the general despair that I feel for this country is with the lies that the American citizens are told. And, you know, thanks to social media, thanks to the internet, we're all finding out more and more that the institutions that we're supposed to trust are lying to us. So I always feel like it's us against them. It's the citizens against the corporations and the politicians at this point. It is. So we have an article here, how the Border Patrol faked statistics showing a 73% rise in assault against agents. So here again, we're doing the same thing here that we did, that Patrick Colbert did in fear-mongering and hate-mongering against Muslims. This is fear-mongering and hate-mongering against Mexicans. This is trying to push Trump's wall. This is appealing to Trump's base. This is very dangerous. This is lies. This is lies coming from an institution that is supposed to be telling us the truth. Hold on a minute. Still have a cold. It's tea. I actually don't drink. Okay. Oh, I might have a cider beer once in a while. I take that back. Let's be real. But, so yes. Shoot, where was this? I don't have the source. Maybe it's in there later. So this is an article, how the Border Patrol faked statistics showing a 73% rise in assaults against agents. Last November, reports that a pair, and I remember this. Reports that a pair of U.S. Border Patrol agents had been attacked with rocks at a desolate spot in West Texas made news around the country. The agents were found injured and unconscious at the bottom of a culvert off Interstate 10. Agent Rogelio Martinez soon died from his injuries. Early reports in right-wing media outlets such as Breitbart suggested that the perpetrators were undocumented immigrants, and President Trump quickly embraced the narrative to bolster his campaign for a border wall. So it was everywhere, all over social media. It was all over. Trump was, tweeting about it. He was talking about it at in his speeches, that these bad hombres had attacked these poor working men and killed one. And this, again, was before an investigation. And it just spread like wildfire. And it was such fuel for, discrimination and hate mongering, fear mongering. So back to the article. To people familiar with the harsh terrain and the habits of undocumented border crossers, however, the news made little sense. Why would immigrants seeking to enter the United States hang out in the middle of nowhere, miles from a border, waiting to randomly attack law enforcement officials? It was 4 months before the FBI investigation determined that the most likely cause of Martinez's death was an accidental fall. So it was a lie. It was a lie. But no one ever heard this information that the FBI eventually said that he had fallen. And that's how he died. That wasn't in corporate media. That wasn't on the news. That wasn't in Trump's speeches. Actually, Trump continued to go on with, and so did Pence, continued to lie and push the false narrative that these undocumented immigrants had killed this man. And they knew this. Please don't tell me the FBI didn't tell them. They continued to lie after this. Accidental fall. Meanwhile, media outlets across the political spectrum repeated statistics showing a sharp upward trend in the number of assaults against Border Patrol agents, even as the number of undocumented immigrants apprehended while crossing the southern border had dropped. So they were reporting that the incidence of assault had gone up, but the number of people crossing the border had gone down. Makes no sense. According to U.S. Customs and Border Protection data, assaults on Border Patrol officers increased drastically in fiscal year 2016, reversing a long downward trend. That year, CBP claims there were 454 assaults on agents nationwide compared with 378 in fiscal year 2015, a 20% decrease. The increase from 2016 to 2017 was even more surprising. In 2017, according to CBD, there was CBD oil. There were 786 assaults, a spike of 73%, even as apprehensions fell from over 400,000 to 300,000. So they blatantly lied. The Customs and Border Protection Agency blatantly lied to the American public. Border Patrol blatantly lied to the American public. Trump and Pence, who I will get to in a second, and other politicians blatantly lied to the American public. And here's how. So this is how they calculated the assaults. Almost, according to the U.S. Customs and almost the entire increase, 271 purported assaults, was said to have occurred in one sector, the Rio Grande Valley in South Texas. A large number of the assaults supposedly occurred on a single day, according to the charts and details provided by Christina Coleman, a CBP public affairs spokeswoman. In response to the question from The Intercept, Coleman explains, and this is how she calculated the assaults. She explained to The Intercept, an incident in the Rio Grande Valley sector on February 14th, 2017 involved 7 U.S. Border Patrol agents assaulted by 6 subjects utilizing 3 different types of projectiles, rocks, bottles, and tree branches, totaling 126 assaults. Oh my God. Okay. Where does she say it? I mean, okay, let me just say again. She's multiplying the number of patrol agents by the number of people who assaulted them by the number of weapons that were used. And that's how she came out with 126 assaults. Now, if there were 7 patrol agents that were assaulted with rocks or bottles or tree branches, Wouldn't that count as 7 assaults? But she multiplied the number of the victims, which was probably a lie, by the subjects, by the projectiles that they used. And she came up with 126 assaults instead of 7. Okay. 7. Okay, so that leaves 119 extra assaults that falsely and grossly inflate the data. Oh, see, they did the math that got cut off, making it appear to the public that far more agents were assaulted. Coleman did not respond when later asked if any of the 7 agents were injured. So she didn't even say that they were even injured. According to the FBI, most Border Patrol agents whom assault data has been publicly reported were not injured. Rocks and water bottles don't always hit their mark, or they are never thrown in the first place. For reporting purposes, apparently, the mere brandishing of an object constitutes as an assault. So now they're counting if someone has, it's not funny either. If someone has a bottle in their hand, a stone in their hand, a stick in their hand, but they haven't thrown it, it's still considered an assault. If they threw it and they missed, it's still considered an assault. If they threw the water bottle, it bounced off of someone's head and they were perfectly fine, it's still considered an assault. According to this institution that we're supposed to trust and believe. In addition to this, one instance of clear inflation admitted to The Intercept, data from Rio Grande Valley indicates 98 additional events in 2017, and several of these also appear to be padded. In almost all Border Patrol sectors, a review of aggregate statistics in 2017 show that the average number of assaults per incident is 1. 1 incident, 1 assault, and that's how it's normally recorded. But in the Rio Grande Valley, which contributed to over 300 suspicious-looking assaults in CBP's 2017 database, created the illusion that agents were suddenly being assailed that year, because the Rio Grande averaged 4 assaults per incident. So they're bending the truth. They are really bending the truth. They're breaking the truth. And then they're posting the statistics, and everybody believes that we have this huge problem at the Mexican border. We have this huge problem with bad hombres, that Border Patrol officers are being assaulted and killed, and it's actually all lies. So during a phone interview with The Intercept, James Tomschick is the former director of internal affairs for the CBD, said law enforcement agencies count this is how they did the math. Oh, no, wait, this is how they used to do the math. During a phone interview with The Intercept, Tomschick said law enforcement agencies count the number of people assaulted, not the discrete acts of violence that occur during an incident. And that's how it was done when he worked at the CBD. Not 5 rocks thrown at an agent would have been considered 1 assault. Tomschick said that during his more than 3 decades of police work, he has never heard any law enforcement agency multiplying assault officers by the perpetrators by the weapons. When asked, Franklin Zimmering, a criminologist for the University of California, Berkeley, and author of When Police Kill, if he'd ever heard of such a method, he burst into laughter. No, he said, laughing again, I haven't. Let's repeat that one more time. This is what they're doing. Multiplying assaulted officers by the perpetrators and then the weapons. And that's how they came up with the number of assaults that they then spread as their false propaganda to get people to encourage the building of a wall or to get people to fear Mexicans. Do you remember, I think it was just after Trump was elected, it was a school cafeteria, and it was grade school, so it was the younger end of the grade school. It was like grade 3, 4, 5, and 6. And all the children started chanting, "Build that wall, build that wall." And there was a table of children of Mexican descent in the middle of it, with all the other children in the lunchroom chanting to those children, "Build that wall, build that wall." And a lot of those Mexican children of Mexican descent did not go back to school, did not want to go back to school because they were traumatized and they were scared. And that was passed down to children from their parents, from Donald Trump, from corporate media, that you have third graders and fourth graders and fifth graders attacking other children and chanting, "Build that wall." And those children got up and left, and they were crying. So that's very sad. And that's just another thing I hope that we don't see in the future. So when we have an asshat like Patrick Kobach, who's running for governor and he's spreading anti-Muslim propaganda, we need to stop that. We need to stop that, or this will continue. Oh my God, I can't see the clock. I'm trying to check the time because Jordan's going on at 5. But anyways, I also wanted to talk about, just real quick along those lines, do you remember also that there's a group called No More Deaths, a group called No More Deaths, a humanitarian group in Texas, I think it is, who was leaving water bottles out, big jugs of water bottles out in the desert for people that were immigrating into the United States, because there are so many deaths. You have children, you have elderly people crossing over and they're dying of dehydration. So we had this group called No More Deaths that was leaving water bottles out for the people who were immigrating over. And there was a video of Border Patrol agents laughing and dumping out all the water onto the ground and smashing the water bottles to make sure that these immigrants didn't have access to drinking water when they arrived. And on top of it, when No More Deaths released a study, which I do want to talk about real quick, about how many deaths there are of immigrants crossing the border and how much water they've documented that the Border Patrol agents have spilled out. They released that information to the public, and what was it, within 2 or 3 days, they were arresting members of No More Death. So, oh, Jordan, repeat that. I didn't see it. So, so here you have a Border Patrol agency who's lying, who's spreading hate and fear, and then you have a humanitarian group who is being arrested for helping people not to die. Only in America. Maybe it's other places as well. Let me just read you the stats real quick. Travelers attempting to cross into the U.S. from Mexico regularly die of dehydration as well as exposure to extreme... Keep going. Okay. Travelers attempting to cross into the U.S. from Mexico regularly die of dehydration as well as exposure to extreme heat or cold. So aid groups leave water bottles and emergency stocks such as blankets at points throughout the desert. But the water supplies were vandalized 415 times between 2012 and 2015, which amounted to more than twice a week on average. Over 3,586 gallons of water intended for thirsty migrants were sabotaged, data collected by the groups. In the past year alone, humanitarian workers have discovered the bodies of 32 people These remains were found by volunteers of the group No More Deaths and other humanitarian aid organizations that work to reduce deaths and suffering along the U.S.-Mexico border. And this is a quote from one of them. If you go to Cabeza Prieta and walk along its arroyos, chances you'll find human remains. While volunteering for No More Deaths, I've come across scattered ribs, bones, femurs, and skulls resting beneath the trees. Yeah, so on January 17th, No More Deaths released a report documenting the systemic destruction by Border Patrol and water of food supplies left in the desert for migrants. It was hours after that report was released, Scott Warner, a volunteer with No More Deaths, was arrested and charged with a felony for harboring migrants after Border Patrol allegedly witnessed him giving food and water to 2 migrants in the West Desert. If convicted, he would face 5 years in prison. This is why we fight. This is why you fight. This is why I fight. This is why we put ourselves out there. This is why we fight with family members who disagree with us, why we've lost so many friends who disagree with us, because this shit can't continue. This is people dying, good people who are trying to escape a country that is dangerous for themselves and their children and their parents, their elderly parents, and they're crossing over through a desert where they might die. And then they get here and Americans hate them. Bad hombres, rapist. Put yourself in their shoes for 1 minute. My father is in his late 80s. I love him more than life itself. My daughter is 20. I love her more than life itself. If I had gang members here and I had crime here and my daughter could potentially get raped, I would get the hell out of here as quick as I could. And I'm crossing over into a country where they're making it so my daughter or my father dies of dehydration and I have to bury them under a tree? What kind of, no, I'm 40. What kind of people run this country? You know what I want to be done with my taxpayer dollars? I'm sorry. I don't live in the United States right now. I live in Canada. So what I would want to be done with my taxpayer dollars, and I am American, by the way. I'm still an American citizen who votes. I would want my taxpayer dollars to go towards helping people, not killing people. And I don't want to fund agencies who lie to the American public. And I don't want to watch corporate media who lies to the American public. Okay. I feel like I'm just way too upset right now to even switch gears. And I'll make this quick, Jordan, because I know you want to go on. But this is such a huge thing too. We will stop this. We will stop this. This is what independent media is for. So please support Jordan's channel. Give to the Patreon. You could subscribe at $1 a month even, because Jordan's going to put people out on the streets, journalists out on the streets, to get the word out about all these injustices. So it's not just going to be, we're sitting here, we're upset, we feel helpless. Let's take action. Let's take action together. Jordan, do you want me to cover the last story, or you want to go? I can do this, a different time. Tell me. Waiting for a sign from Jordan. Do you want me to just finish it up some other time? Big Jordan. You guys are nice. Do you want me to go or cover? I think that means go. It feels very military. Okay. I love it. Fired up, ready to go. And thanks, guys, for supporting this channel and supporting us, because that gives me hope too. Or else I would be sitting here probably having a migraine and crying. But I feel like there's hope, so it's okay. Last one, not least, and we're talking about environmental genocide. Where's my chapstick? This is from the Denver Post. Suncor oil refinery spews 8.5 tons a year of cyanide gas over low-income North Denver neighborhoods, state records show. And this is happening all over the country. Environmental attorneys and residents petition EPA and the CDPHE, the Colorado Health Department, to at least require disclosure of the hydrogen cyanide emissions. So what happened was the Colorado Health Department all of a sudden changed their rules in 2015. And that sort of coincides with large donations that were given to people in power in Colorado. Surprise, surprise. Suncor oil refinery, community groups in Globeville, Swansea, and Elria this week petitioned the Environmental Protection Agency to require Colorado health officials to set a limit to the that protects people, and at least require Suncor to disclose emissions and gas to local emergency responders. CDPHE, I'm just going to say the Colorado Health Department, air quality control officials in January, this is just in January, approved a change to Suncor's air pollution permit that exempts the company from a federal requirement to disclose hydrogen cyanide emissions. The officials set an emission limit of 12.8 tons a year, higher than the 8.5 tons Suncor reported in its emits, for the purpose of letting Suncor use a legal loophole that lets companies with permitted limits avoid disclosure of their emissions to state documents. We're talking about emissions of cyanide. Cyanide is classified as a chemical weapon. And the health department in Colorado changed the rules so that Suncor would no longer have to disclose how much cyanide they were putting out into the air. Why would the health department do that? The health department action overrode objections by Adams County commissioners who raised health concerns and said transparency is vital for emergency crews to be able to respond to potential hazards. And they're used to potential hazards because this place put out a cloud of orange smoke. I think it was maybe a year or 2 years ago, an orange plume that covered the whole city. And it was not thoroughly investigated. This place was fined and paid something like $2.2 million for putting out too much toxins. I think it was in 2014. So time and time again, they're used to this place just pumping out so much pollution into the air where these people live, low-income North Denver neighborhoods, and now they're making it so they can basically just do it when it's happened so many times before. It's absurd to think state health officials would even consider granting permits to pollute more. The state health officials are completely failing to protect these neighborhoods, and they are disregarding the cumulative impact of many pollutants in the area. Cross Community Coalition Director Candy Kidbaka said. The ideal would be that we aren't letting them put that into the air at all. And if they are, we would know how to respond. Hydrogen cyanide is a colorless gas smelling faintly of almond. that at high exposure levels attacks the brain, the heart, causing rapid breathing, convulsions, and loss of consciousness, according to the U.S. Agency of Toxic Substances. Lower level exposures are linked to breathing trouble, headaches, enlarged thyroid, cancer. The Organization for Prohibition of Prohibition of Chemical Weapons classified hydrogen cyanide as a chemical weapon. Upwind of Denver, in Commerce City, Suncor emits the hydrogen cyanide from a fuel catalytic cracking unit that is part of the company's crude oil processing. So if it's about oil, then it's okay if people die and suffer. And that's what's happening all over the country as corporate politicians fill their pockets with money from big oil and petroleum. Americans get sicker and no one has health care. That doesn't sound like a good deal to me. They talk about, the health department replied on data collected. Suncor collected the data, by the way. The actual company collected the data to calculate hydrogen cyanide. Air concentrations around the refinery as 5 parts per billion, more than 7 times higher than the EPA's 0.7 ppb risk threshold, records show. And they're just allowed to do this. And the people are sick in the area. Now, Suncor and the health department said that the people are not sick in the area. But again and again, you will see local interviews of people who are saying they are having respiratory problems. They are sick. They are having severe headaches. There have been a large number of cancer, people who have developed cancer. And Suncor and the health department say that people they're not sick and they're not being affected. So this is their history real quick, Suncor's history of violations. In 2012, state regulators fined Suncor $2.2 million for violations related to benzene air pollution above limits from the refinery. Benzene causes cancer. I went to a hearing here in Buffalo when they were trying to put the pipeline through here, which we stopped. We stopped it. But there was a man in there who went to every single one of the hearings and told a story about his wife who died of a rare form of cancer from benzene. And there was also a nurse there who went to every single one and told her story about how she works at the Cancer Institute and she sees all the time children and elderly people coming in with a rare form of cancer from benzene, because that was happening over there in Buffalo, coming from the generators that they were using when moving the gas across New York State. So again, they were fined $2.2 million for benzene air pollution. In 2015, state regulators ordered Suncor to fix other pollution problems detected in 2013 and in 2014. Suncor at one point negotiated, this is great, you should be able to negotiate a deal when you're killing people. Suncor at one point negotiated a deal to avoid admitting law violations in return for paying a $214,000 administrative penalty. So if you have the money, you can pay for the fines and keep pumping the air full of toxins. And that's what happens all over the country. That should be a t-shirt. And that's what happens all over the country. Here's the plume of smoke. November 30th, 2011, Suncor Energy Refinery north of downtown Denver called sources. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the black goo. This was when the black goo was happening. Jesus Christ. Sorry. Suncor Refinery. Where's the goo? Suncor Energy Refinery north of downtown Denver called source of black goo. Federal emergency response coordinators say an underground plume of black goo spreading from Suncor Energy Refinery north of downtown Denver is the source of the black goo leaking into Sand Creek and South Platte River. Is it getting too dark? Because I can't read anymore. Okay. This black goo is leaking into the river, and all they have to do is pay their fines and everything is okay. Where was the plume of orange smoke? Suncor Refinery accidentally released 75,000 pounds of sulfur dioxide, 150 times daily limit. Suncor admits sulfur dioxide released was 150 times higher than the limits, but say there was no health risks. Done. Done. This is the country we're living in right now. I will wrap it up by telling you who gets paid off by who. And that might have something to do with why 150 times the daily limit of sulfur dioxide is released into the air, and why the health department will say that it doesn't affect the citizens' health in the surrounding area, and why black goop is leaking into the river, but it's fine. And trust me, if I dug even deeper, I could find even more. But this is the obvious. Cory Gardner, Senator, Republican, Colorado, $97,000 from Club for Growth. First of all, so Club for Growth is a conservative group which advocates for the limited government and free market policies. According to its website, it will take on any candidate who doesn't support its views, regardless of the party. So there was a huge article as well in the Denver Post, or whatever the Denver news outlet is, that dark money had contributed insanely large amounts to the last campaign for congressmen in Colorado. So wouldn't you know, $97,000 he got from the Club for Growth, and the club has received money from Koch brothers, Koch-linked groups, including Center to Protect Patient Rights. Several of the club's board members have ties to the Koch brothers. Additionally, the group has worked with other known Koch affiliates. So there you go, the Koch brothers. Suncor is a Canadian company, oil and petroleum company that is located in Alberta in Canada, and the Koch brothers own huge amounts of land up there. It's over here as well in Alberta. Huge amounts of land for oil refineries in Alberta. So hey, when the Koch brothers want something, they get it at the cost of the Americans' lives and futures. His other major donors, Anadarko Petroleum, and the Koch Institute, and a lobbying firm. Paid. Bought and paid. The governor of Colorado bought and paid. The citizens of Colorado have black goop seeping into their rivers and plumes of toxic smoke, and the children can't breathe. And we have a Democrat involved here, and then I'm going to wrap it up. John Hickenlooper, also very, very, he is the governor. I'm sorry, Cory Gardner is a senator, Republican senator in Colorado. This is the governor, but same difference because he has the same ties and is getting the same money. In fact, a hell of a lot of money. Governor John Hickenlooper's. He is a Democrat, and he is in bed with oil and gas. So his campaign finance, he's got a lot of money coming in. He has nearly $6 million in campaign donations, and the top industry was uncoded. Then lobbyists and oil and gas. So people are sick, people are getting poisoned. Politicians are being paid off by oil and gas. Politicians are being paid off by lobbyists. Politicians are selling their soul for what? because there's no amount of money that you could pay me to hurt anyone, much less entire cities of people and the environment. Think about that, the impact on the environment. The black goop in the rivers. What are these people going to drink when there's no more water left that's clean? What are they going to drink? What is Governor John Hickenlooper and Cory Gardner, what are their children going to drink and their grandchildren when there's no more water left in the country because the black freaking goop, because it's not new. We have black goop, Coke sludge that is seeping out into people's basements in Western New York because it was the Industrial Revolution there. There was coke lead smelting plants everywhere. There was black goop seeking into people's basements, and those people are sick. And what did the government do in New York? Paid them off. And you don't hear about it on TV, on CNN, on Fox. You don't hear about it. And then you have half of America who thinks America's great. Everything's dandy in America right now, according to so many people. And the only problem is the Mexican rapists and jihad politicians trying to take over. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's the 2 reports that I did earlier, and I'm being sarcastic. Okay. It almost seems unreal, but it's real. It's really happening, and people are suffering, and people are dying. People that we know and love. I know a lot of people and family members who are sick because of environmental toxins. So it's happening everywhere. No one's safe, not even Hinkle-Hopper. So on a happy note, I do believe we can stop all this. I do believe we can change all this. And like I reported on earlier, El-Sayed, who's running for governor in, Abdul El-Sayed, who's running for governor in Michigan, is the perfect example of, what our future could look like. Someone who actually cares about the people and fights to protect the environment. It's not too late. And it really is up to you and I to spread the word, because the corporate media is not helping, and politicians are lying, and government agencies like the health department in Denver and border patrol agencies are lying to us. So it's a country full of lies. And the only way that we can combat the suffering and disparity is through this, you, and me. And the truth, spreading the truth. So that being said, keep fighting and keep spreading the truth. And you're not alone. We're all in it together. And please support Jordan's media group, Status Coup. You can, you want to talk about grassroots, it's grassroots. He's not accepting money from big donors who are going to tell him what to talk about and how to present stories. He wants to take real journalists who are aggressive and put them out on the street and get real stories of your stories, people suffering that corporate media is not covering. So I know we're all strapped for cash. $1 a month, 5, 10. Hey, if you got money, the more the merrier. That's just more journalists that he can put out on the street, and more things that we can cover across the United States, or that he can cover across the United States. So happy Wednesday. Is it Wednesday? I hope I haven't filled you with despair, because there is definitely hope. And stay tuned for Jordan. He's coming on now. And again, I'm Teresa Joy, and thank you for joining me today. And you guys give me hope, so keep fighting.